Howdy zowdy, Big Beefy Burger Biter here with... Whoa! It's a tier list of the Isaac characters in the video game. So I've been sick for over a month, so I haven't been able to actually record actual runs. So I thought I'd just do a tier list of not the items, because that's way too many items. Maybe I'll do one of those. I'm rating these characters on really three different things: whether or not they're fun, whether or not they're strong, and whether or not their gimmick is interesting. So I'm going to quickly go down what each tier is going to be, and I'm realizing that I'd probably need to be pointing like that, because that's where that is. But S tier, they're extremely strong, they're extremely fun, and their gimmick is interesting. A tier, I enjoy playing them a lot, or they have a really extremely fun gimmick, which is a really weird way to say that one, but whatever. B tier is they're enjoyable to play, and I don't hate having to play them. I'm gonna go with C tier is whether or not they're still fun to play, but they do have some problems that can be annoyances, and I'll explain those as I go. And then D tier are characters I have zero fun playing, their gimmick is not interesting, or they're just simply bad. I don't know what else to say other than, hey, let's get started. We got Apollyon here. Apollyon. Easy. So Apollyon is not very interesting stat-wise, and I honestly don't care for Void. I think Void is generally not great, and there are a lot of items that I would literally take over Void because they just charge quicker. Not to mention that there are a lot of items that you could void and they would end up being bad for you to be able to use. And then on top of the fact that after a certain point you start losing stats when you void items. So without Void, Apollyon is pretty much just boring. And when I am willing to replace that tier 4 item with a lot of items that have quicker charges, can't really justify putting Apollyon any higher than D tier. Now we can move on to Azazel, who is he's gonna go in A tier. Azazel starts with Flight, which is already extremely strong, super high damage, able to hit multiple enemies. Brimstone, which is one of the best items in the entire game. Only downsides, range, which range can be increased through range ups, which is nice. Thank you for that change. Increased speed. What does this character not have? Can go into the first curse room for free, extremely strong, super good. Azazel. Bethany, I've come around to Bethany. However, I'm still not the most excited with flames. I'm still very upset when I lose all of my flames to an enemy that walked forward, or it teleported on top of me and then all of them are gone. Although, with how cool being able to get your angel deal first instead of a devil deal, that's super nice. The synergies on her book are really cool, if not used too much, at least for me, because you lose your fires really quickly. And the fact that you can't use your soul hearts as a way of health, you use it for your spacebar items, which I'm going to say is probably a worse off thing than having it for health. Bethany is just going to be a C tier character for me, not even a fan. And I'm going to make people mad here when I say that. I honestly... Alright, next we have Blue Baby, which with the buff to Blue Baby's amazing starting item, the poop, actually top 10 tier item. I'm going to put Blue Baby on B tier, not because B is Blue Baby, but I like, ever since they made it reflect projectiles, it has the buff with it always spawning a fly when you poop, the poop's utility as a bridge builder, a shot blocker, all of these things. It gets you some extra money. I've come around on Blue Baby and really liking this character a lot, actually. But I still wouldn't call them good, as a good character. But I definitely don't regret playing this character. Yeah, it's gonna be a B tier. Yeah. Next we have Kain, who is one of my favorite characters in the game, honestly. Definitely gonna be comfortable putting him in A tier. I would have done this without even having some of his recent buffs that have made him a super good character. He starts with pretty good damage, good speed. The luck up is nice. His starting item is really good with some of the machines. And even though I play the game fast, intentionally at least, the power of gambling is good in Isaac. And then let's not even get into the fact that now he starts with the paperclip, which allows you to open gold chests for free, which a lot of the time will give you a stat up or just a lot of consumables. Not even factoring in now the fact that you can't get negative tier effects. Kain is easily just one of the best starting characters in the game, like hands down for me, and I always enjoy playing this character. Not to mention that starting with a key means you can get your first item in your greed mode runs without having to even start the waves. Easily. Easily. This is like an eye patch. Wrong eye. No, that's the correct one. Kain, good character. Next we have Eden, which I love playing Eden. Eden streaks were popular for a very long time, and in fact, I think they're still rather popular for like Isaac players. But with the fact that it is a gamble on whether or not you get a really good run or you get a really bad run, but that's just Isaac in general. I don't think I can put him any higher than the highest of B tier. I don't think he's going to be moving from the highest of B tier. It's a fun character, but sometimes problems can happen, or sometimes you just have the easiest run ever, and it's fun. Because randomness in my Isaac video game. Next we have Eve, who used to be one of my favorite characters in the game, and I still think she's easily an A tier character. Whore of Babylon is super strong, and maintaining Whore of Babylon is a lot easier now that you start with the Razor Blade, which now allows you to start taking red hearts, so you can use those damage buffs for specific rooms, and then you can try to take a couple of those into boss rooms, and then you have just a bunch of damage. And then you have Dead Bird procced guaranteed when you use that Razor Blade. The only problem as of recent is with the recent lowered HP tinted rocks that you see, it's really hard to get her to start with her preferred 1 health and a lot of soul hearts runs. But that's really not her fault. That's Edmund's.
I will become back my money.
I don't know, she's a fun character, so I can't put her any lower. She's great. Next we have the Forgotten, which gonna be another AT character. Super high damage, really good defensive ability, and a really cool gimmick that allows you to have this little skeleton pile while you shoot with your tears like, and then you okay, I'm not gonna do that. He just has like cool gimmicks, and he does a lot of damage, so he can go pretty quick, and curse rooms for free, basically. You can go in with the soul who has flight, and get out with the Forgotten, who will probably have a red heart there. Then all you need to do is get a red heart. Super good character, I think. I'm a fan. So here we have Isaac, who I'm gonna make some people mad here when I say that I think Isaac is a B tier, big old B tier character. And why I think that, I don't use the D6 to try to, keep shuffling through to try to get an item. Usually when it comes to Isaac items, I'm not very picky. I will usually walk into an item room and be like, is this item going to benefit my character in any way? And if not, then I hit the space bar, and then hopefully it won't be like a item I can't take because it's another space bar item, but that's just how it works sometimes. If that's for anything, it's really nice to be able to replace spacebar items you aren't otherwise going to pick up for passives. And then the obvious other really good thing to be doing is to try to get a different reroll on your devil deals, because devil deals are strong. So the D6 is pretty good, and you can shuffle through it. Despite that, I honestly see myself, for a lot of the lower charge damage items, I actually like to swap out. This is gonna be crazy, but I like Shadoop the Whoop is an item I would swap out for the D6 every time I see it. Especially because late game, you would actually end up using that because the dice kind of falls off late game. Isaac's in B tier. Next we have Jacob and Esau, who is definitely not fun most of the time, especially because I haven't done the new changes to the controls yet. That's an update that's happened. I haven't played the game in a recording for a minute. But as it stands from at least recent playing, Jacob and Esau are going to go down in D tier. They can just be frustrating. Sometimes you just die because like one of them gets desynced and then it's a red guy that does full heart damage and then hits him twice and the run's ended. Not fun. The only really positive thing is the fact that you can take multiple items, which requires you to line that stuff up, and you obviously have to go to the alternate path to guarantee that, and then at that point you're playing the alternate path of the game. Great. Next we have Judas, who is another really strong character. I'm just gonna put him in B tier though. He's obviously strong, his damage is really high, but the main thing is the fact that his health is super low, so you can die super early, but as soon as you've done something to mitigate that, he becomes a super strong character. On top of that fact, he has such high damage that I often forget to use the Book of Belial in boss rooms. That's my fault, that's not Judas's fault, but you know, gonna happen. He's super strong, but I wouldn't say that he's like interesting. He's just high damage. That's basically what his character is. I can't really put him anywhere else other than the B tier. Next we have Keeper, and Keeper is a character that I want to like a lot, and I do. But the main thing that really puts him in C tier for me is the fact that he can only have 3 max health, with the exception of having 1 different item in the entire game. Not counting shields. But it's really frustrating to try to do alternate or harder bosses. Like, Mother Fight sucks. That's basically it. Eden. No, not Mother Fight sucks. Delirium sucks. Like, and then when you only have 3 health, even when you have some of the best items in the entire game, sometimes you just die because you've only got 3 health, and Mother Fight is trash. Next we have Lazarus, who, even though he has had his buff with his being able to die every floor, still is pretty boring. I mean, dying is not something you want to do in Isaac to begin with, so die. That's the encouragement for this character, which can be nice when you're doing like devil deals and stuff like that. But other than that, like getting lowered all the way down to like 1/2 a heart is not ideal, even with a res. So C tier for Lazarus. Next we have Lilith, who, I'm gonna be honest, I used to like Lilith a lot more, but as of recent, not really my character anymore. She's super good in greed mode, obviously, with being able to use her items multiple times and have like 5 familiars. And she's pretty interesting. I do think her gimmick is cool. And then she synergizes well with familiars, which I'm a familiar fanatic. Put that in my trademark, familiar. She's just average, basically. That's it. Next we have Lost, who I really can't put him anywhere else than the tippy top. He's all the way here in S tier. Flight, obviously good. Holy Mantle, one of the strongest items in the entire game. Give that to my boy the Lost. Spectral Tears, extremely good. The ability to take devil deals for free, but you only get to take 1. That's extremely strong. The only problem, you don't get health. And you know what? I think it's fun to play the Lost, so that's also important. He's strong, he's fun, and his gimmick is cool, so I'm gonna go ahead and put him in the S tier. Next we have Maggie, who, some of you may know that I like speed, and when you take that away for health, I'm probably not gonna like that. Her gimmick is kind of not fun. It's just you're slower, but you are guaranteed to have a lot of health with your starting health and your spacebar item that gives you more health. Health over speed, I'm not a fan. You're going in D tier. Next we have Samson, and I'm going to go ahead and put him in the B tier. He's pretty underrated in my opinion. Bloody Lust just does really good damage. You just gotta get hit a couple times, so just be bad. You know, be Lucario from my favorite game, Smash Bros. Ultimate. The amount of damage he does for getting hit a couple of times is actually, like, absurd. And, pretty underutilized. He starts with good health, gets some good regen with his trinket that he usually keeps, because, you know, you don't want to get rid of that little heart, you need that. Funny. Okay, now that's all the normal mode characters, so now let's move on to the Tainted characters, starting with Tainted Apollyon, which we're gonna take what Apollyon starts with, make it so much better, and then move him way up to A tier. So his starting tier's not great. His starting stats aren't the best, but you take any bad item or item you don't need, and then you can turn it into something that will actually help you. Since locusts are honestly better than most spacebar items in the game, and are definitely better than a lot of the otherwise useless passive items that you wouldn't want, locusts can do damage to multiple enemies. They tick for a decent amount of damage, and once you get a lot of them, it is easy mode for most of the game. Not to mention that this character looks extremely cool, with one of the coolest looking sprites in the game.
Oh, I'm gonna have to give Apollyon easy A tier. You're definitely a good character.
And since we're still on A tier, here we go with Tainted Azazel, who is another extremely strong character. Now, the lower damage Brimstone is not that great, but the Sneeze ability that Azazel has that gives you a lot of damage if you're hitting somebody, it is mega damage, and we always like our mega damage in this game. Plus, you get to start with a Brimstone that actually hits the other side of the room, so that's a big plus. The only really downside is the fact that you actually don't start on flight. Whatever. Okay, now we got Tainted Bethany, and take everything I don't like about Bethany, and swap some of that around. First of all, the lowered increase for stats is pretty bad. It is honestly troublesome. Then you have the fact that most of your passive items are Now you have the fact that most of your passive items are going to be coming from a book. Put that section where I said I hate losing my fires on Bethany. Now put that tenfold when that's a tier 4 item that you don't want a Monstro to jump into you and then make you lose that. Pretty frustrating. On top of the fact that, you're bad. The one thing that's a positive, though, is the fact that you now use red hearts to charge your item instead of soul hearts. But this character is also locked to only being able to get soul hearts, which is better, because at least you don't lose your devil deals, but, it's kind of nice to just have both. D tier, get out of here. Alright, now we have Tainted Blue Baby, who I'm going to go ahead and put in B tier. I'm somebody who likes bombs a lot in Isaac. They're obviously the most useful consumable item that you have. So replacing that with a bunch of different effects is both good and bad, because one, you have to kind of manage which ones you have, but you also can't reliably use bombs when you need them. And there's a couple of effects that are honestly just really bad anyway, like stone poops are bad. Being able to blow yourself up a lot of the time, especially when you're learning this character, and if you're doing alt path, it's pretty bad. But definitely a fun gimmick. I think it's a lot of fun despite these problems, but I can't really put him anywhere higher than B tier for me, so he's going to go in B tier. Just above regular Blue Baby, though. Next we have Tainted Cain, and as it currently stands, I think Tainted Cain is my least favorite character in the entire game. When Bag of Crafting had one set seed for everything, it kind of allowed you to have this sort of like creative build creating. You could kind of make your own builds with this character without having to use like console. Like, this is a way you can creatively make some wacky shit, and I like that. But now that it's per seed, it's just so much worse. He's just too complicated for a normal run, because a lot of the time, you need your consumables for not only now items, but you still need your health, you need soul hearts for health, you need your keys to be able to open doors, you need your bombs to be able to find secret rooms. You need your money to be able to buy things that are important for your run. It's just too complicated. And then you have the problem that if you're not crafting items, you're leaving stuff behind. But if you're trying to wait out for one extra thing so you can actually get a good item, and then it turns out that Angel Deal item that you just got with that Eternal Heart ends up being like Dead Sea Scrolls, like, it's just not fun. Like, my best runs now with this character are usually like lower tier items that just have like the easiest crafting recipe in the game. It really just feels like super random on top of random, and it's too complicated. It takes way too much time. It's super slow. And then you gotta hope that the best thing you can get out of a really bad crafting recipe is like 15 Bob's Brains. As he stands now, he's gonna stay in D tier for me, but if they end up changing that back to... If they change that back to one single seed for every single recipe on every single seed, he's probably gonna go back into A tier. Next we have Tainted Eden, who I'm gonna put in C tier. So I like the gimmick of rerolls. If you've ever seen me play this game, you have seen that anytime I see a dice room, or most of the time if I see a dice, I'm hitting that spacebar every time. But the main problem that comes with Eden is the fact that it is not an uncommon occurrence for you to have a bunch of items, then reroll all of your health away, and then reroll again, and now all of a sudden 7 of your soul hearts are gone from 2 hits. It's a very common occurrence, not to mention things like rerolling into Dead Cat, and then you have 1 health, and then that stays. And in general, it's pretty easy to have damage chain on you, since obviously you can't really process all the items you get when you reroll, and then you get hit again, and then you're dead, because you got Dead Cat, and then you got rerolled off of Dead Cat, so now you don't have Dead Cat, and now you have to do the run again. His best strategy is, honestly, you don't want to have too many items, so you don't have these problems occur. But as it stands, C tier character, at least top of C tier. Next we have Tainted Eve, who I'm going to put in D tier. So the gimmick of the really slow fire rate, but you use your health to be able to do damage, it's pretty easy to forget that you're holding down the fire button and then you accidentally lose your health. Subtorium is honestly kind of a bad item. If you try to use the clots to do damage with getting them sucked back to your character, it's very not good. It's very rarely applicable, and then on top of the fact that you're now risking losing enemies walking into them. The biggest problem is the fact that they lower their health over time, and then if one enemy decides to like shoot a bomb, or like one enemy that can walk forward into everything or charge in all of them, all of a sudden you literally have no defenses, you aren't doing any more damage, and the fact that your lowered tier rate is abysmal causes this character to struggle really hard. Not a fun character. Don't like him. Get him out of here. Next we have Tainted Forgotten, who is... I'm going to go in A tier. First of all, the super positive things are the fact that you start with Flight. Flight's always good. You have really good damage. It's a pretty cool gimmick where you don't do damage yourself. You have to use your guy that you throw and then his stationary to do damage. You get Curse Rooms for free, which are especially helpful since this character can't get red health. And being able to go in a Curse Room for free to stock up on some soul hearts, that's a good positive. The only real thing this character struggles with is any fast-moving zoning characters are really easy to camp like your location and cause you to take damage, or the other thing that happens quite often is you accidentally throw your skeleton into a fire, and then that pretty much guarantees that you're going to get hit trying to pick it up if you don't have bombs to blow up said fire. Both of which are extremely relevant in the angel deal fights, because the angels move very fast, are pretty good at trying to get directly in your face, and if one misfire causes you to throw your bone into a fire, you're probably going to get hit with it unless you have a bomb to fix that. But other than that, super fun character, definitely an A tier character for me. Next we have Tainted Isaac, who I'm going to go ahead and put, I'm going to put him in B tier. He's going to be B tier. Tainted Isaac really just shows how little you really need to be able to beat a run in Isaac. When you're limited to only 8 items, it's pretty apparent that like you need to go for the items that are really good, with the exception of HP ups being something you can actually take and then leave, and you'll still keep the HP for it, which is really nice. And then the obvious super strong thing is the ability to have the items flip between 2 items, which is extremely powerful. Way better than the D6 in my opinion. And with a cool gimmick that really just shows you, again, you really only need like a handful of really good items, and then you can beat pretty much any run as this character. Honestly, he's going A tier. Bottom of A tier, but A tier. Next, I feel like I'm not going to win any favors with this one, but in my opinion, Tainted Jacob and Esau is one of the strongest characters in the entire game. Now, if this was when Repentance first came out and he had all of his bugs and problems and all of these really bad things that happened, Esau being able to die on spiked rocks, therefore forcing you into the Lost, all these really bad bugs with health, the way his charging worked before, where it would cause you to get hit even when trying to dodge him, really made him an extremely frustrating character. But at that time, I knew for a fact that Repentance wasn't exactly finished when it released, so I was holding my hopes up that some sort of tweak would be done to this character, and lo and behold, we got one of the best characters in the entire game. He has extreme damage, the highest damage in the entire game. So much damage that you barely even need like any items to be able to beat this run as his character. He's extremely good. Most of the problems with the character have been fixed, with the only downside the fact that with him being as strong as he is to enemies, he is equally as strong against you, meaning if you get hit by him one time when he charges into you, or you just walk into him, you get turned into Lost without a Holy Mantle, which can be very bad because dying in one hit is pretty bad. Despite that fact, I think that gimmick is extremely fun, extremely rewarding, high damage, good character, S tier character. Next we have Tainted Judas, who I'm going to go ahead and put in A tier as well. Tainted Judas really just feels like a completely different like indie game entirely. Like this is a mechanic that would be in something else. But here it is in Isaac. Super good ability where you freeze enemies, do a lot of damage, and then you stack that damage, you get curse rooms for free, all of this like super good stuff. You're locked to black hearts and soul hearts, which, I mean, a lot of characters are at this point, so it's not that bad. Again, really good damage is just like always a good thing. Just a solid character, like, I don't know what else to say other than the fact that they're fun. Like, they're not S tier good, but they're extremely good regardless, so I'm gonna have to put them in A tier. Next, we're gonna have Tainted Keeper, who I'm gonna put in B tier. Yeah, I'm gonna put him in B tier. The lowered health, so max health of 2, is pretty bad, obviously, but the gimmick of being able to get coins off of killing enemies is pretty good, because it lets you get a lot of money, and it also helps prevent you from dying. The buff to all of your shops being goated, with extremely good items in them, is obviously the main gimmick of this character, with the two downsides being, the lowered health, and the fact that now you have to pay for every single item you see, especially early game, because sometimes you just don't get enough money to be able to afford everything you need, and the fact that he's honestly pretty bad against a lot of the bosses in the game that don't spawn enemies, meaning that you have to play pretty well against a lot of the late game bosses, but despite that, pretty fun character, pretty good, although he still has those downsides that make him pretty hard, but still pretty fun of a character. I'm gonna put him in the funny beer tier. Funny. Next we have Tainted Lazarus, which again, if we were still in the older patch of when this game first came out, I would definitely agree, one of the worst characters in the game. However, ever since the new rework where you can use the flip mechanic to be able to give them both items, makes them a lot more manageable. I think their gimmick is extremely interesting. I think his gimmick is extremely fun, so which is why he's definitely not in B tier. The only problem I don't like about the new change is the fact that you kind of lost a reason you would be using flip and gained another reason, which if you could use the flip mechanic more frequently, maybe if it was on a 4-item charge, you'd be definitely going higher. Pretty fun character, I like his gimmick, and despite that, I wouldn't say he's an amazing character, but with that gimmick being as interesting as it is, I can't put him any lower than A tier. Next we have Tainted Lilith, which I feel like a lot of people are going to be mad at this one too, maybe. I think Tainted Lilith is the best character in the entire game right now. She has such good damage that you do not need stat increasing items for literally the beginning and mid-game of the game. She has really good range. She can hit multiple enemies at the same time, which allows you to get through the early game extremely quickly. Her main downsides being the fact that she's slower than most characters, which, I don't like that speed down, looking at you, Maggie. And the fact that a lot of really good items that are in the game are actually pretty bad on this character. I think the best example of a bad item on this character is Brimstone. Really, any item that ends up lowering your tier rate is pretty bad on this character, so as long as you don't pick something up like that, you will end up just decimating the entire game with this character. And while I'm not factoring in character unlocks, she does give you what is widely considered the best item in the entire game. So when you have her unlocked, it's pretty much no reason not to go beat the game with this character and get that unlocked because it is so strong. Also, I just think she's fun. I like the damage. Also, she's just weird. I've talked about in the past how weird this game can be. Yeah. But yeah, definitely my favorite character in the game right now. Super strong. Interesting. I like the melee characters in this game. So obviously there you go. My bias is definitely not showing. Next we have Tainted Lost, which I feel like I'm not going to gain any happy comments for this one. This, in my opinion, is what The Lost when he originally came out was meant to be. I can't put him any lower than A tier for a couple of reasons. Tainted Lost kind of gets rid of a lot of the problems that regular Lost had when he first came out without Holy Mantle. The Lost has always had an issue where you would get a bunch of HP ups or a bunch of items that are actually completely valueless on that character. It was a very common occurrence when he didn't have Mantle, when he first came out, where half of your item pool would be completely useless. Just from the fact of him filtering out your item pool is extremely good, it prevents him from getting all these really bad items. Again, he starts with some really good attributes like Flight and Spectral Tears, which is always super strong. And with the fact that you no longer can get anything like Holy Mantle or Extra Lives, the fact that they ended up making a card specifically to help make this character a little less frustrating, since ultimately when it comes to Isaac, the other thing that was a problem with the loss, sometimes you just get hit. So, with the insurance of the Holy card allowing you to at least get hit one time, it gives you the challenge that this character was meant to have. And on top of that fact, even if you lose, these runs usually go by so fast that, you'll be on, the mother fight in, 12 minutes. It's not that much of a hassle, we have to restart again. So, for the fact that he's pretty fun, he's super strong, and the fact that his strength is exactly what I feel like it was intentionally made when Boss first came out, has to put him in the A tier. Next, we have Maggie, Tainted Maggie. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. So she is a pretty strong character. The melee damage does a lot of damage with the ability to regen all of your health when you're killing enemies. That's obviously really strong. But in my opinion, she's just not fun at all. She's strong, but it's every other character in the game is basically walking around making sure you don't get hit. So here's a character that encourages you to just turn off your brain and just do nothing.
Also, taking intentional hits counts as getting damaged in the bestiary.
Which in my opinion is just not that fun. So I really don't want to put her anywhere higher than D tier, but at least she's the highest of D tier, because acknowledging the fact that she's super strong, it's fair. She does struggle against a lot of the later game enemies because, again, can't really kill enemies to get health, and the fact that you then can't be using your melee attacks on a lot of those things, especially bosses, makes her kind of a little wimpy. Definitely not fun for me.
Get her out of here. She'll be.
And last we have Tainted Samson, who I'm gonna go ahead and put in the C. He's gonna go top of C here. Again, super strong character. The Berserk mechanic is honestly really fun. Especially the mechanic of being able to lose all of your health, and when in Berserk you stay alive. Reminiscent of a funny little bird that I'm thinking of. The only problem I'm not putting him in B tier is, especially late game, since it charges with damage, there's a lot of the times where you don't want to have that active, so you'll have a lot of downtime where you really can't get in on some of the bosses. Even though you can smack away projectiles, there are a lot of projectiles that are just, you shoot them faster than you can hit them away, or the bosses have, explosives, or they have funny hits. I'm not gonna elaborate on what that is. I think he's a fun character, but he definitely has his problems. So, while I don't hate playing him, I definitely have my preferences, and that's gonna be putting him in C tier. Oh, that's all the characters in the game. Hopefully you enjoyed, me. Again, I've been sick for a month, so I haven't been able to record actual Isaac runs, so this is something I can record. Thank you if you watched all the way through, and let me know if you want to see other tier lists. I've been thinking about doing 3 other tier lists, one for all of the passive items in the game, one for all of the active items in the game, and then maybe one for all of the trinkets in the game. Just let me know in the comments if you want me to make those. I'll go ahead and make them. But yeah, that about wraps it up. So if you watched this, thank you. If you enjoyed, leave a like. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.